Round 2, off the back of a win against the Knights. Warriors against the Chooks. Let's go. Hey team, welcome back to the Warriorholic with a preview of round 2 of the Warriors playing the Chooks in Sydney this Saturday. Before we get started, let's have a quick review of what happened there last Friday at the Cake Tin. I don't think too many of us genuinely believed that we'd see that much of an effort for 80 minutes and see the guys hold them out. You know, we had hope, we thought we had belief, but 3 minutes in, on the back of Challenger's drop ball, SJ misses the tackle off the inside shoulder, 6-0 down, heads dropped. I was starting to wonder where the hell I go and hide when you're in the middle of a 17,000 strong crowd, unlike at home where I can run away from the tally. But hey, the boys fought back. Passion, intensity, resilience for 80 minutes saw us get the win. Pretty happy to see that Webby, while he was complimentary of the resilience and the effort, he said there are clear issues still remaining with the boys not sticking in the process. When we were defending on our line, it was more about effort rather than the structure, so there's room to improve there. Likewise, fifth tackle options, not delivering what we've been practicing during the week, so genuine room for improvement there. But all I want to see this weekend again is us maintain that intensity for 80 minutes and compete. We saw the Chooks did the complete opposite against the Dolphins, started out with a hiss and a roar, but when the Dolphins came back and started smashing their guys, put them on the back foot, stepped up the line speed, the Chooks panicked, not used to being bashed around, and in the end they end up making a lot of uncharacteristic errors. So we know they traditionally start slow and taper themselves to really peak about 10, 12 rounds out from the finals. So we might have caught them at the right time. A lot of people were worried about a bounce back, but I think there are a few issues there they still need to fix. A few key guys out, so who knows. Let's start out by looking at the two lineups here. So we've got Tedesco against CNK. Tedesco, one of the greatest players in the game at the moment, if not, in the history of the game. He was quiet on the weekend. Do you expect him to be as quiet this week? Who knows? I think both of them play a similar kind of game, but he's probably got that little bit of X factor over CNK. So I think it really comes down to, who clicks on the day. I'm giving a slight edge to Teddy there, but for me, Chance was close to our best player on the ground last Friday, so I don't think we lose a heck of a lot there. Tupou against Kossi, two really big bodies, one a few games into his career, one at the tail end. You have to give it to Tupou on experience, but hey, no one really thought Kossi would step up to the level he did last week. A lot to expect a young fella to repeat that exactly the same this week, so you've got to give a little bit of that to Tupou, but I'm confident that Kossi can hold his own there. Suwali against Williami, again, complete polar opposites in where they are in their career. 30-year-old journeyman looking for redemption versus a young fella, coming into his third season, having only played 1 or 2 games, I think it was 2 seasons ago, or was it last year? I don't know. Either way, he's at his beginning, but coming off the back of a massive World Cup, talent, X factor to burn. But I think Williami brings a lot, of experience there. I don't think he'll panic. He's a solid big body on defence. So can he contain him? I think it comes down to communication with the guys inside and outside him there. Obviously, Suwali takes it, but hopeful that Williami can put him under a bit of pressure there. Manu against Pompey. Well, can't really compare there. Again, probably one of the top 3 or 4 players in the comp last season and through the World Cup against a guy sort of struggling to find his feet in first grade. Pompey is reasonably solid on defence. Seems to be, he seemed to function well last week with the guys around him other than SJ when they let through that try. Big task. It may actually remain to be seen where the Manu plays. Could be a bit of gamesmanship going there. I'm not sure, do you risk a guy with a facial fracture against the Warriors when you've probably got them in other places, when you've got a long season ahead? I think there's a small chance he might not actually play, but if he does, you've got to give that to Manu. Yeah, X Factor. We're going to have to work really hard to contain him because I think he'll be a game decider. Jackson Paulo against Montoya. I'm giving that to Montoya at the moment. While we didn't see any of the big breakout runs from him last week, some of his shots on defence, he folded Young, one of the biggest up-and-coming players in the comp, massive guy, to the point that Young was sort of on his haunches for a good 5 minutes after that. So I'd like to see, hopefully, Montoya make a few breaks this week, find those gaps rather than running straight into the guys. Halves, Luke Keary against Tomato Martin. Quite different games in the weekend. I thought Cleary had a really good running game. He looked one of their better players, actually. Found space, played with a lot of energy, whereas Tomato Martin appeared quieter, but I think he did a lot of the effort areas that you don't really notice unless you go back and watch the game twice. Some big covering tackles, some big hits in defence there for a guy who's small, putting guys through holes. I think it's a bit of a 50-50 this early on, so I'm going to leave that one as a split decision. Sam Walker against Johnson. Again, Walker had a pretty solid game in the weekend. Johnson, some areas of his game, great to see him running again, putting guys through holes, taking the line on. Defence, one-on-one, left a little bit to be desired there. Kicking game was atrocious, but it was an improvement from what we saw against the Storm. So if he continues that progression and hopefully his experience, maybe he gets a little bit up over Sam Walker there, but yeah, maybe get a bit of an edge to the young fella. Lindsay Collins against Adam Fanua-Blake. Well, Collins was another one of their better players against the Dolphins in a poor performance, but Adam Fanua-Blake, he was outstanding against the Knights. He seems trimmer, he seems fitter. I'd like to think he can dominate Collins. Probably similar sized bodies, but I feel like Adam Fanua-Blake hits the line just that little bit harder. I'd like to see a couple more offloads from the big man this week, but a little bit 50-50 there. Brandon Smith against Egan. I'm not convinced Smith will necessarily play on the back of those rib injuries. They don't fix overnight. If he does play with those needles, there's an opportunity for us to put some solid hits on him to slow him down. I thought he looked underdone, even though he's trimmer than he has been for a few seasons there. He was struggling to get to the ruck for 5 out of all 5 of the tackles each set. He was probably only getting there by tackle 2, and hands on hips and hands on knees there after about 15 minutes, even before he got smashed. So from that aspect, I think Egan was in much better form, looking fit, was controlling the game well. So if you base it on reputation, sure, Brandon Smith might get it, but I think based on round 1 delivery, Egan gets the nod for me. I think he's really starting to win a lot of Warriors fans over. Hope he kicks a little bit more out of dummy half this week to take some of the pressure off Johnson. Fletcher Baker against Mitch Barnett. Both similar sized guys, probably playing a bit more of a mobile prop forward role. I can't fault what Mitch delivered on Friday. So it's a pretty close match up there, I feel. But got to give it to our boy. Slight edge there. Some of those efforts on defence coming up out of the line and timing them well most of the time, particularly when we're looking to hold the opposition in their 22. I thought he just delivered really, really well for us there, and some really solid runs for a smaller guy. A good break there, showed his wheels, so I'm going to give that to Barnett. Egan Butcher against Ford, another similar matchup, but again, Ford seems to be surprising a lot of people. Getting a bit of a man crush there for the big fella. Just great speed, vision, hands, subtleties, heavy involvement on defence. He's not always the first main tackler, but he was involved 5 out of the first 5 tackles of the game last week. Never even looked slightly puffed. I think he's one of the fittest players in our team. Egan Butcher's a solid player, but he's by no means world class. So, it comes down to effort there, and I think Ford shows us that he's got plenty of that. Nate Butcher against Niokore. I thought Niokore had a quieter game. We didn't quite get him involved as much as we could have last week. But what he did do, he had a big impact on defence. He's a huge body. I'd love to see him getting a little bit more ball on hand, getting a bit more ball down the right-hand side, not being so left-hand dominant. He has the ability to dominate that matchup. Victor Radley against Harris. We all know what Victor Radley's capable of, but on the back of that head knock, I'm not sure he should be playing. The Roosters have been traditionally pretty good looking after their guys on head knocks. If he does play, I think it's a very even matchup. They're a little bit different. Radley's a little bit more aggressive in your face, whereas Tohu's just that workhorse who gets 50 tackles on Friday night. Both pretty good ball players. They play that link between the halves there and the outside backs. So given the calm head and the fact he's not injured, I'm going to give that one to Tohu. So all up, I think we can probably match them, if not slightly beat them in the forwards. They probably outclass us on the backs. So where I think we can actually get these guys is on the bench. Last year, I think we struggled. We didn't have the depth, but at the moment, I think we've got depth and the guy's not even on the bench. Last year when we had Lodge, him and AFB would often dominate the first 15, 20 minutes, or even the first 30 minutes before they'd go off, and I think we'd see a big drop there from the guys who came on. This year, Bunty seems to have taken it up a level. His involvement, his post-contact meters are there, his efforts on defence. Tom Ali, while he got limited minutes on Friday, I think he's shown that he's capable of making decent meters up against some of the big boys in first grade there. So what do we got? We've got Jake Turpin against Dylan Walker. Dylan Walker, mate, he was outstanding on Friday. The intensity, the speed, the impact he brings for a smaller guy. That said, he's actually quite a tall man when you see him in person, but I think he definitely wins that matchup. Drew Hutchinson against Afoa, again even, but I back my boy Bunty on the back of his past couple of efforts. Naufahu White, got to be honest, I don't know much about him against Josh Curran. I think he's quite a new player to the Roosters fold. You got to give it to Josh Curran on experience. He's played rep footy there in the Indigenous teams. He'll be really fighting to try and prove that he should be starting over forward, so I'm going to give him the nudge there. Terrell May against Tom Ali, again another similar matchup, 50-50, so I'm giving us the bench. We have the ability to match them in the forward, so I think it really comes down to how we can match up on defence and get up in the face of their X-Factor players, not giving Teddy and Manu room to move, making them do a lot of work on defence. I'd like to see us putting the ball right down in the corners, if not putting it out, rather than putting up bombs from our own half that are landing on the 20 and giving Teddy 10, 20 metres of space to run towards us. Get it right down in the corner or kick it out in the corner and let us build the defence around him. We saw a lot of teams do that against Walsh last year to stop giving him room, and it worked. So I'd like to see us give that a go. We're going to have to think up some different kicking options off the last tackles in our attacking sets, because kicking to the corners with Tupou there is going to be a bit of a challenge, and you've got Soali on the other side. So actually they might be on the same side, but they've got some tall guys there, so going to be looking for a few more grubbers. We need some more repeat sets. We didn't get enough of those. The commentators mentioned that on Friday, watching the replay there, that we were just going set for set, and it's the ability to actually get those repeat sets, tire out the opposition. I think that's what we managed to in the middle of the game there. At one point, I think we got about 6 or 7 sets at their guys. While we didn't get tries, we did tire them out. So key decision makers, factors for me in the game is can we control Teddy, Manu in the halves, putting pressure on them, putting them on the back foot, getting up in their faces. If we can't do that, we give them the space. We could get carved up. Getting our patterns sorted in defence there, not isolating Johnson, so he has to deal with those big forwards one-on-one on our line, and sorting that kicking game. That's the big one for me. if we can't sort that, we're going to struggle. So I hope SJ is just doing all those extras this week. Deep, long, flat kicks, I think. Take the time away from them, put it out. If you're going to put up bombs, they need to be right on the line, and have our guys coming through. You know, Pompey and Kossia and Montoya as well are tall guys who maybe have to compete on attack when we're running onto the ball and their guys are standing flat. So that's going to be it. That and effort for 80 minutes. Heart's not sure. I want to say the Warriors sneak away with a close one, but you know, I never want to see us lose. But if we can stay in the fight, we don't lose through stupid, you know, brain fades in the last minute. If we compete and we're genuinely close and it's, you know, under 10, we've got things that improved from last week, I'll be a happy man. All in for 2023, guys. This is the Warriorholic. Let's go.